All right, welcome back to our Pirates of the Caribbean movie review series here on the channel.
Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum, Zach.
A bottle of rum and maybe a bottle of cum before the
Yeah.
night is over.
Not gross. This is just gross. I
So
hate that.
much in so many different
Never say
directions.
that again. Uh,
Welcome back. This is a new movie review series we're doing on the channel. Last week we did Curse of the Black Pearl, and now here we are talking about the Dead Man's Chest. And as always, we're going to do our gut check right here in the beginning of the review, where we're going to give our initial scores, and then maybe after some discussion it'll change and we can officially lock in at the end of the review. All right,
okay.
you ready? 3, 2, 1. Synchronize 7.5.
Synchronized right there.
Well,
Yeah,
a
how
synchronized
about that?
moment. That's we gotta have like a whole
Yeah.
graphic and like sound effect for that. It's like,
No, let's not do
was it
that.
like synergy? Oh, synergy.
Synergy.
All right.
Synergistic business strategies. Yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you what. I was between two scores
Okay.
coming in. I was between a 7 and a 7.5, more so.
Okay. I kind of was with you, I think. I will say this. I was going into this with the preconceived notion of memories sort of souring a little bit more on this movie.
Mhm.
And I actually was pleasantly surprised about how much I enjoyed it.
I can't deny that I
it's-
had fun. I can't deny. it.
Yeah, I had a blast watching this movie again.
Mhm.
It was honestly, it's easily not as good. I mean, the first one I think I spoke very highly of. If you go back and watch a review, I stand by everything I said there. I mean, I think the first movie is just that good. This is definitely like strangely darker. Like as if the
Yeah.
first one wasn't dark enough. This takes like an immediate
It's
extreme
darker.
dark turn.
It's darker, but also has way more over the top moments at the same
Yes.
time. Like
Yeah. It's darker, and then it's like people with
nonsensical
bone
shit.
cages, bone cages, and a wheel fight.
The fucking wheel. That's the biggest problem
Yeah.
with this movie. The most unbelievable part of this movie is that wheel just kept rolling that long all through the jungle.
Yeah.
Nothing stopped
Yeah.
it or anything. Just kept perfect balance, and they fought all. Why were they fighting on things so much? It really is inexplicable. But they got to jump on stuff
It just
and
so
start
happens.
fighting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand the purpose of that either. I will say, I remember. I feel like when this movie came out, I remember watching some like behind the scenes features of this, and I think this is before At World's End came out the following summer. I think we had it on DVD. I could be completely misremembering this about when I watched special features so I could be wrong on that. But I will say the special features on this, where the two writers were basically outright admitting that they were writing the scripts of both, because Dead Man's Chest and At World's End were shot around the same time. I think they were. I think it was a combined shoot, and what's insane is that they were basically admitting that they were writing the scripts of both of them while they were filming. And you can kind of feel that with this movie, that they're sort of just like making stuff up as they go. It's like, yeah, we'll just add a wheel fight. We'll have a wheel fight in there.
Dude.
And it's like,
It's just got way more high. Well, it's got highs and lows, like the valleys
Yeah.
and peaks of this movie all over the place. Like there's
they
a lot of things
they
that don't
kind of are.
work
They
for
really
me,
are.
and a lot of things that do. But it's a mixed bag.
Mm.
It's a
Mhm.
mixed bag, which ultimately made me kind of want to do a 7, because it's like some of the stuff is felt pretty half baked and like just thrown together. And a little half-assed sometimes, but there was also certain things where it's like Davy fucking Jones is in this movie, and he's him alone, and he's iconic.
Yeah. Well, I will also say, talking about effects that stand the test of time, he still looks great.
We love the tentacles, yes.
It looks amazing. It looks amazing. That effect is spectacular, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Like that, all of that detail and stuff on the creepy tentacles just like moving around like while he's talking. It just looks great.
I don't like him playing the piano with his tentacles, though. Something about that didn't
Yeah,
sit right
playing
with
his
me.
organ. Yeah.
Didn't sit right with me.
It didn't sit right with me.
But yeah, this fucking Kraken and the Kraken when it comes on the side, and you can really get the detail of like these like little
Yeah.
tentacle pussies on the side of it. It was like, oh my gosh.
That and the teeth and everything, all the teeth and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot they throw in here.
Um,
A lot you get introduced to. There's Tia Dalma's
mhm.
first appearance here, and she's pretty cool.
Yeah. So okay. So starting back from the beginning, I will say I having just watched Curse of the Black Pearl, I liked that it was like, oh, this feels like really contiguous. It's like it's a few months later, maybe if not maybe like a year or two later, and I think they said it was a few months, because that's how long Norrington resigned his commission a few months ago. I
Don't
think.
get me started on Norrington.
But yeah, we'll get into that. So we have Cutler Beckett showing up and being like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you guys are under arrest because that you guys aided and abetted a pirate.
Yeah.
So that's by all accounts, you're guilty of the same fate. You know, you're pirating basically. So
Well, I actually didn't like.
so
I didn't like how they started it. It felt like there was like not. It just went in raw. Like there was no. Just immediately, I'm arresting you too, and it was like, okay, whoa, all right. Something
I like
about
it
it.
because it's very discombobulating. I don't know. I think it works because it's like it's a simple way to open the movie. It's simple in a way to open the movie because it's contiguous from what we literally just saw. The last thing we saw was that happening.
Yeah.
So cut few months later, year later, and you know they're essentially being held accountable by their own actions. So skip over to Jack, who's mentioned as Captain Jack Sparrow. He's currently undergoing a quest. He's like in a. We don't understand. That's never explained. The weird, creepy pirate prison that he escapes from. It doesn't have to be explained. I actually kind of appreciate that it is, but the detail on like the guy getting de-eyed, it was just like this is a PG-13 movie, and we got like all this gore already happening. It's kind of wild, but so Jack's looking for a key, a drawing of a key. So they're looking for this key to unlock something, but they're not looking for the chest it unlocks yet because they don't have the key yet. So all right, we're looking for this key. Cool. So we have character motivations. We've got Cutler Beckett wants the compass. Elizabeth and Will. Will concocts a scheme, concocts a plan with Beckett to be like, all right, I'm gonna go get the compass for you. And Beckett's like, yeah, I have these letters of marque, which will basically, you know, you'll be exonerated for the crime if you bring this back to him. If you get that from me. Already we're off to, okay, that's like, we got like 3 or 4 characters that we're talking about, their motivations. So then they start throwing more characters and more motivations at us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're starting to understand why this movie has some problems. We have way too many characters that have like very specific goals.
Yeah.
And then those goals change and those goals modify and those goals alter. And this happens over the course of a 2.5 hour movie, and it just gets you just kind of your head starts spinning because you're like, okay, so Will's goal is to get the compass from Jack, so he's got to make Jack think that he's on his side because he's got to get Jack to help save Elizabeth. But is he really doing it to because he doesn't really care that much about Jack? But he also is like, he's okay, single-minded about that. Okay, now he meets his father. His father's on the Flying Dutchman. Now everything about his motivations completely changes after that. Like, okay, we've got that. Man, we have Elizabeth doing her own thing, where her father's trying to break her out of prison, and then she does some piratey type stuff, where she's the one. She's like, okay, well, I'm gonna get these letters of marque, and you'll sign those over to me, and I'm gonna go rescue Will. Or get the compass for you, and also because I don't know where Will's gone exactly. So I'm gonna go out and do my own thing. So we've got this whole side plot of her uh, getting this merchant ship to sail into Tortuga, so that she could find a pirate crew, I guess, and she just so happens to come across Jack and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um. God.
That's
Okay.
not even
So
half of
we've
it.
got all that. That's not even half of it. Then we have Jack. Jack is looking for the key. When he figures out where the key is. He knows where the key. He knows Davy Jones has the key. That's where he gets the knowledge from T. Dama that he's got the key. Then he tries to do the exchange with Will. It doesn't really work. Davy Jones lets him know that, like, hey, you got to pay your debt pretty soon, and your soul is worth 100 souls. So if you can do that in 3 days, you can get 100 souls in 3 days. So then Jack starts looking for 100 people. This is like halfway through the movie, and it's just like, what is happening? And it's just so that's really ultimately the problem of the movie, is that too many characters with too many like very plot spinning motivations to continue.
But at the same time, it's fast paced. There's a lot to
It
keep your
is. That's
attention.
the thing. It's very fast paced. Yeah, it's
It's like
going
there's
places.
always got stuff happening. There's a lot of
Yeah.
keep track, a lot of moving parts here. So it's not going to
Yeah.
drag too much, despite it being a long movie. It didn't feel like it dragged too much to me. So
No, because even though it does feel like, because how I've basically described it feels like how they were writing it. Basically, it was like, oh God, okay, well we need to change this motivation now for
Mhm.
because Will's gonna meet his father, and but the thing is like all of that stuff like still it organically makes sense. That your motivations would change. Jack's trying to do whatever he can to stay ahead of Davy Jones, including doing some like pretty sus things. He's maybe trying to get 100 people to take his place,
yeah,
to serve aboard the Flying Dutchman. You know,
I love
he
this
kind
this
of tries to run away at the end of.
this idea that they keep pushing is that Elizabeth and Will are sure Jack is a good man. Jack is a good man. It's like I'm really not getting that vibe.
No,
It's like
no, it's Will doesn't think Jack is a good man. Will does not
well, you
trust
said
Jack
that
at
at the
all.
end of the last movie. At the very least, he said he's a good man.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
Elizabeth is all about, I know you're a good man. It's like at every turn, what did he even say? He even said it's like evidence would suggest otherwise, or
Yeah,
something like that.
the evidence. Yeah,
Uh,
it's just like
It's like I don't know. You're willing to just he's literally hiring all these people just to sacrifice instead of him.
well, he doesn't quite. They don't quite know that until like towards the end when he double crosses. He double crosses Will, and Will's like, okay, well, I already was kind of in this just to get you to get the compass to Beckett. So now that that's all happening, and then you double crossed me, and you basically like lied and said like, yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah, Will's not really into. He's not really on Jack's court anymore
Mhm.
after that.
Yeah. Well,
And neither's really Elizabeth at that point either.
yeah. I will
So
say overall, as an overarching thing, that I could definitely see much more so in this movie Jack Sparrow as a supporting role. Whereas last movie it was like he's definitely the main character energy here. But I noticed in this movie there was one point where I was like, wait, I haven't seen Jack Sparrow in like feels like 20 minutes. And I just
yeah.
didn't realize like, oh, Jack Sparrow's a lot less present in this movie. There's a lot more focus on other characters for sure.
Oh, that's yeah. That's because there's the whole thing on the Flying Dutchman is like we're there on the Flying Dutchman. I'm actually glad they didn't do a lot of cutting away there. I think having all that stuff on the Flying Dutchman was really
Mm.
important, because that's like the central thrust of where the film takes us after that. It's like, okay, Will Turner's like main goal now is not to help Jack, is to rescue his father. So he's gonna kill Davy Jones. But that's not what Jack wants. Jack wants a bargaining chip, basically. if I have control of his heart, if I'm able to use this as a, hey, I can get my thing taken away, and then I'll give you your heart back, type deal. But yeah, that doesn't quite work out for him because Norrington is a smart guy, and
Okay,
yeah. So
first off, let's start with the first Cutler Beckett. What do you think of Cutler Beckett?
yeah. So he's definitely like way more of a like cut and dry. Yeah, he's just evil. Like, but I kind of like that. I kind of like that he's just kind of a smarmy.
I was just gonna use that exact word. I was like, he's a
asshole,
smarmy little bugger.
He's a prick. Like he really is. He's just like relishing. Like he just kills a person for trying to rescue Elizabeth. He has his flunky just kill a guy. Shame that. He just murders a guy. It's just like, yep, I'm doing what I can to uphold my sense of the law. Essentially, it's like he's just totally ruthless, and it kind of is fun because it's like you'd think a pirate would be that kind of a person, right? But it's like he's really more barbaric than anyone else, which is I like that kind of. And so this is very one note in a lot of ways, but it's fun. Yeah. He's fun. I think
he's fun. They just kind of throw him in there immediately, and it's like, oh, this is our guy now. Like,
yeah.
But
well, he's the guy who branded Jack, so we get the
of course.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to go back like the first movie. Are there any shots like can you see that brand on there in the Curse of the Black Pearl?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So when they're first, when Norrington first has a meet cute with Jack after Jack saves Elizabeth, Norrington and his men come over and they're like, oh yeah, thanks for rescuing, and he like holds his hand out and then he brings the. Because like how to run in with the East India Company pirates. He's been branded with a P.
Okay.
And then he pulls it up further and sees the Jack Sparrow tattoo. So.
Okay. So yeah, I liked Beckett, and he had a nice little moment where like Elizabeth was like offering, like she was giving him some like I forget what they were talking about. Where she was like trying to negotiate with him basically, and he's like, I'm listening, and then she pulls at the gun in the face, listening intently.
I'm listening intently. Yeah, I love that too. It's great.
Yeah, classic. I feel so comfortable and confident. I'm even gonna turn my back on you pointing the gun at me because I know you won't shoot me. But so he's fun. Yeah. I do take issue with Norrington in this movie. He really pissed me off what they did with this character.
He pissed me off. Yeah, it is kind of. I mean, it is kind of sad. I mean, it is sort of like played kind of for laughs a little bit.
He's just the punching bag character, and you see this in a lot of movies where it's like, oh, this guy who was once the king or some position of power. In the next movie, he's down on his luck, and he's like scrounging for change or whatever it is, but it just felt kind of like, okay, I mean, it feels like kind of half-baked to me, and it was like, he's just like...
Yeah, well, because he's not introduced till like halfway through the movie, basically. Like, he doesn't really come into it till about halfway through, so it's like, at that point, like, in order to really get like his motivation across, it's like you basically have to like over-exaggerate just how down on his luck he is. So, which makes you then understand his sort of third act turn, where he then, he's able to find the heart and tricks everybody basically. So, gets it back to Beckett.
Yeah.
In the end,
it was just kind of annoying what they reduced him to for most of the movie. And it was like he was just a gag. He's served to be as a gag, and then. I mean, it's just like add him onto the pile of other characters, and then and then he gets involved in this whole basically love triangle fiasco, and then he's there, and then shenanigans ensue. But Well, first, what do you think of the whole Cannibal Island sequence?
Okay. That's one that felt like
This this
that
sort
felt like
of
it was going to be the set piece of the movie, right? Didn't it sort of because we get two major islands, I guess we go to because we do that, and then there's like the last island they're on, the island with the heart, um, which looked like there was an old monastery or something there. It kind of looked like because that's where the whole ruins that they go up and fight in, and the wheel is in. Um, Too long. It's too long. That the everything with the cannibals is just too long.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
I
so.
like I think that that's like the only part of the movie where I felt like maybe the pacing could have been tweaked a little bit. It's just too long. I mean, it's like I like what one of the things I do like about it was how it's the slow like realization when Will's coming there, and because we'd spent some time with the Black Pearl, and you know they kind of had their heading of like, oh, this is where we're gonna go, and then we spend some time with Will. Will's trying to chart his course there, and then he kind of comes along on like the lonely beached Black Pearl, and it's just sort of like really eerie. They do a really good job building up the suspense, the eerie suspense to that. But then we're there for like 25 minutes after that. It just goes on and on and
Mhm.
on. And I think that like the stuff with the bone cages, I think probably if they'd tighten that up by a good 5 minutes, I think like if it had been like a thing where it's like they tried to do a swinging and then got caught and then fell down, that's one thing. But it's like we have this whole sequence of them swinging and then them trying to like not to get caught, and then the one guy picks up
Jesus.
a, a
Snake.
snake and then they fall down and die, and yeah,
And
I
then
don't
it's
know.
like
It's
I get in the first movie we established you don't take it too seriously, but they really just
right.
go all out with the wackiness in this whole cannibal.
It's
It's like a
it's
lot.
very wacky.
It's a lot
It's
between
Jackson.
that, them inching themselves up, and then
Yeah,
the whole Jack Sparrow, yeah, like on the pole, vaulting
yeah.
himself, and like them throwing fruits like perfectly onto the pole. It was like,
It's very it's too wacky, I would say. Because then like well, because he like escapes and he finds the one thing is like he finds crucial information that apparently the East India Company was there. Except that's not really all that important. I don't know. But he finds paprika, so it's like okay. And then and then they catch him, and then they go to burn him again, and then he escapes again, and then he gets caught. It's just like,
and then he does
oh,
this.
just
There's
pick
this whole
something. Like,
fall where he's like falling through all these bridges, and then he gets caught and like whimsically falls, and then the pole falls
yeah,
straight up, and all the fruit. It's like
yeah,
Jesus Christ, what is
yeah,
happening? What is, so much,
yeah.
and it's like
Yeah,
okay,
it's like that if that part was tightened up a lot more, um, like that was the one thing I was watching it because I was like, boy, we're here. I don't remember us being here for like this long. We're just here for a really long time. I might be off on my minutes, it might only be like 15 minutes, but it feels like they're there for way longer
yeah.
than they really kind of should because the plot basically is at a standstill there. It's like, okay, well, they're captured by the cannibals, so they got to get away from the cannibals. And it's like, okay, like that's fun. It's fun. Like I'm still having a good time. Like I'm not like complaining, but it is like with all these character motivations swirling around, it's like, we gonna stop the plot right here. It's a little weird. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's my only major problem. But it's fun. I mean, I had a good time. It's some chuckles. It's maybe a little too. This is. I think I agree with you. This is like the first point in the movie though, where you're like, oh wow, this is like way over the top now.
It's
It's
like,
like
oh, we're not supposed to
pole
like,
vaulting.
we're not supposed to feel like their
Yeah.
life is threatened at any point in the movie, right? Like
yeah.
Jack Sparrow will survive everything. It's to the point where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
Kraken, yeah, that's no problem, obviously, because he literally survived he can fall from the greatest heights and stuff will happen and he'll fall wackily to the ground, and then yeah,
But he does sacrifice himself for to the Kraken. in the end.
And that's it. And there's no more Jack Sparrow. And
Yeah,
I totally believed
yeah,
it.
that's
That it so much
yeah. I
that they couldn't
totally.
even commit for a little bit. It was like immediately like, would you go to the end of the earth to to bring him back or whatever? It's like, okay. Well, we're immediately just like, yeah, we're not gonna just let Jack Sparrow die. We're gonna bring this guy back. It's like,
I think. I mean, I think it was. I feel like it was probably pretty well known that there were two sequel or there was a sequel coming out
yeah.
after that. I don't think they quite did a Matrix thing where it's like, oh, there's a movie and then the next one's coming out in like 3 months or 6 months or whatever. I think they had kind of well advertised that it was going to be like a trilogy. They're two parts to
Okay, well, I
a follow
found
type
the
thing. But
ending of the
it
movie
is.
to be pretty cheap overall. Just the way how it was like blatantly setting up for the next movie to the point where it's like at World's End. We're talking about it's at World's End, and then the whole freaking Barbosa reveal.
No, I disagree. I
Come
disagree
on,
that that's cheap. I think that's one of the best. I would say that's one of the best like cliffhangers to end
really?
on.
Okay,
Because it feels like there's a sense of like
it just
there's a sense of chaos in this whole movie, but it's like we're getting Barbosa back feels like a sense of normalcy is like coming back again. You
really
know,
okay. It
like
completely
Jack
took
might
me
be
out.
gone, but we're gonna get Jack back again. You know, they're going to go after him, and Barbosa's back around too. So it's like that's fun. That's fun.
It completely took me out to the point where it's like it's very much I could feel okay. This is a movie, and we're purposely going for like they're basically like trying to get like a clip like before clips were a thing. It's like they're clip farming here with this Barbosa,
Clip
and
farming.
it's like
Everybody on the forums is going to be talking about this.
they want the big reaction highlight compilation, that everybody reacts to the end of
Yeah.
the Pirates movie before that
Yeah,
happened.
I mean they're
But
yeah.
it was like just the way it was all set up, and it was like moving towards that. It's like it didn't feel like a natural like plot progression. It felt like it was just here's how we're gonna get you in on the next movie immediately, and this felt like it easily would be a post credit scene in most movies, and instead they push it to the end, and it feels kind of weird to me. So
No,
yeah.
I mean this is well, here's the thing. These movies have post-credit scenes. Did you actually watch the first post-credit
I
scene?
watched the first one, but then I
Okay,
literally
the
Yeah.
first one explains why the monkey's still around
oh,
and why he's cursed.
okay.
Because the monkey goes back and steals a bit of the treasure before they leave. So
But
that's why the
then
monkey's around and he's undead.
when I saw this Barbosa reveal, and I was like, this feels like an end
Mm.
credits scene. I was like, okay, let me check for an end credits scene. And it's a freaking dog. But
It's just the dog
that
is like
pissed me
the new
off when the
leader.
cannibals were chasing the dog. I didn't like that part. I was like, damn,
Well,
poor
he's their new
dog.
god now. They need something to believe in.
Right.
So,
Until they want to eat him.
yeah, well, they might.
Um, yeah. So Barbosa, okay.
I disagree with you. I think that was really really great. I think it's to me it harkens back to a simpler time before we had post credit scene that are teasing things that your comic book friends know but you wouldn't.
Yeah.
This is like before that. This is like everybody who's seen the first movie knows exactly what that is, and that's fun. It's a fun lead in to the next movie. There's like a weird lack of cynicism about it. That or irony, I guess. I don't know. To me, it's maybe it's a little too cute. I think maybe that might be maybe one thing that's hanging you up. Like cute in the sense that like it's like a neat little ending. Oh, we're bringing back the bad guy from the first one, and he's gonna be helping him now. It's like that kind of thing. But I don't know. To me that's kind of a quaint thing of a bygone era. I was thinking like how exciting it was to be growing up in the era of specific kinds of franchise films, like pre-Marvel franchise films. There was a lot of them. Now all you got is basically superhero movies. That's all you got for franchise films for the most part. But in this era, you had like Harry Potter, you had Star Wars prequels, you had these pirates movies, you had all kinds of stuff. You had other superhero movies, Spider-Man and the like, the Sam Raimi trilogy. But there was like a lot more I think maybe that's why I kind of I was having a lot of fun watching this movie again, because it was just sort of like a nice relic of a bygone era, which is weird to say because it was only like, not even 20 years ago now, but very different cinema landscape at that period of time as opposed to what we have now, which is sort of depressing to look at sometimes.
Well, I get that.
But
And it's
yeah.
okay. Well, I guess what I was looking for is it felt like blatant fan service. It was like just to get a reaction.
Yeah, but it's
and not like authentic.
I don't agree with that. Because like blatant fan service would have been,
if he whipped out his tits.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would have been if it whipped out his giant, his magnum
right
dong.
At the end, that's the last shot.
We're just right at the end.
Last
That's the last shot. That's the shot everyone's gonna remember when coming out of the theaters. What?
No, you gotta get everybody.
Jeffrey Rush is home.
You get everybody cheering for Barbosa, and then he just whips out his cock, and they're still cheering. It's like,
yeah, it's just like you're still cheering. Like, whoa,
yeah,
oh, okay, that was a little unusual for a Disney movie.
But in the music comes on cue when he whips it out. Oh boy. But I get it.
So let's highlight also the music in this movie.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, the music is great. It's still great. It's a way more variety of themes here, because we have themes for the Kraken, we have themes for Davy Jones. Captain Jack has his own kind of theme, in addition to like the main pirates theme. So it's like, that's fun. We get all this interweaving themes and stuff, and so that's a lot of fun. I think I don't know if I would say I prefer these later two movie soundtracks to the first one, because the first one just has an iconic score, but I like where they go. I like where they take them. They take the essence of the first film, and they make it more bombastic and energetic and just up the adventure, which is basically what they did in this movie. They just upped the adventure by like 15. Let's crank it up, baby. You're gonna go to a cannibal island, and then they're gonna find a magical heart and be chased by a giant sea creature. You've got all kinds of crap going on in this movie. So,
let me see. So I took some notes. I took way more notes on this movie than the first one. There's a lot going on.
Okay. There's a lot to take notes about.
It's like ups and downs. It's like, this thing is really dumb. This thing is pretty cool. That was really stupid. Okay. I thought the whole thing with the Elizabeth on the ship with the dress and the Tortuga and the fire felt really dumb to me. Is that just me? She wrote Tortuga and fire.
I have no strong feelings about that. I mean, it's just like, it's literally just like taking advantage of sailors during the period of being superstitious on a boat. I don't know. It works. It is kind of silly that she has to explain it so blatantly like that. But I mean, I don't know. I guess whatever.
I really liked when Jack first realizes Elizabeth's there. He says, "Hide the rum." That's a nice little callback.
That's pretty great. Yeah, agreed.
Now let's get down to it. A big central theme and focus of this movie is this love triangle, and it really bothered me. All this weird tension between Elizabeth and Jack Sparrow. I wasn't a fan of it.
So watching this movie again, I feel like watching this movie again, I remember picking up feeling like way more about this love triangle, like feeling more like that it was more of a central focus of the movie when watching it again, like I don't know if it is that much of a focus. Like it because if once you know what Elizabeth actually wants, I guess maybe it's sort of spoiled by knowing what happens in the next movie, but like knowing what Elizabeth actually wants isn't like um yeah. So I guess knowing future knowledge I guess sort of spoils it. So we'll kind of continue to this movie. But um it was a lot less pronounced than I remembered, which is something that I appreciated. It's mostly still kind of one-sided on Jack's part, but she plays into it to take advantage of his good naturedness in the end, in particular.
Okay, I would
When
say
she,
that. I would say that, yes. But she did this little
yeah,
gag that no one else saw. It was her own thing where she was like, oh, this compass is completely outrageous because the compass was pointing at Jack Sparrow. And it's like
right,
what you want most in the world. And she's like, oh, this is outrageous. She acted
right,
flustered, like, oh, I got a little crush, and this compass is trying to call me out on it. It wasn't like playing it up for them.
yeah,
She actually made a point to hide it. So it was like,
right.
that's weird to me.
Well,
'Cause
she's yeah, she's disturbed by the implications, but it's also yeah, I would agree. I would agree. So that aspect of it, you're right. But again, I'm remembering. I know I can remember what it is that she's actually wanting when it's pointing to him. So yeah,
hmm.
it's not necessarily that she. It's not necessarily that because so if you look at her arc in throughout the movie, is that she's like a good person that turns. She basically has her and Jack have like complete reverse arcs essentially in this whole movie. Jack's trying to do whatever he can to save his own skin throughout most of the movie, throughout the whole movie, until the very end when he comes back to save everybody. Elizabeth is so one track mind about about saving Will, about doing her own thing, going on her own adventure and charting her own way that she does things that she's like the good person, right? She's like the good guy, the damsel in distress. But she's taking charge of her own adventure in this one to the point of like where she's threatening Beckett with a gun, and then she's doing some she does all that stuff to trick those pirates to go to Tortuga, which ends up killing all of them. And then she traps Jack on the Black Pearl at the very end. So she has like almost like a reverse arc where it's like she's like the good person that gets corrupted by her want to be. It's like because it's like you think, well, if she'd actually care about Jack, she wouldn't have done that. So it's like what? So what does she want most? Jack's position on the ship, to be captain, to be a pirate, because like that's kind of what her arc is. She does whatever she can she goes from having a one track mind to kind of doing what she can to scrape by and save her own skin at
But you
the
think
end of
that's
the
how
day.
she took it in that scene when she sees the compass? That's actually what she's thinking?
No, no, I think she didn't know. I think she didn't know what it meant. I think the I think that was like oh god, am I actually like attracted to this guy? Like what is that? Like what
Right.
does that mean? It's like one of those things where like sometimes you don't necessarily well that's the whole thing, right? You don't know what you want. Whereas like Jack's like kind of lost throughout the whole film because he's conflicted about maybe doing everything he can to get by what he can and betraying everybody. So he knows what he wants to a degree, but his motivations and things are shifting, and so that's why it's like the compass isn't working right for him because he doesn't have a one track
Mm.
clear mindedness in terms of what he wants. Whereas Elizabeth starts to kind of have that same sort of thing going on, whereas hers are like between two options. It's like saving Will or whatever this option is. It's like Jack. Like, what does Jack represent in this option? Right?
Right.
It's like,
Well, that's the only part that's it's hanging me up, holding me up on this whole love triangle thing. Because once at the end, when she does the whole Kraken thing, it's like, okay, we can now recontextualize this stuff she just did. Obviously, the whole making out, and then of course,
Yep.
Will looks up and sees it. It's, it's betrayal. And
Yeah, yeah. That stuff. That's
it's pretty
honestly a
obvious.
lot of that stuff does. A lot of that stuff does kind of piss me off too. I'm not really the biggest fan of like the whole thing. And it's like, Will, just ask her. Like, what the hell was that
So you
about?
keep
Just
quiet.
be
It's
like,
like, I'm just not gonna say anything about her making out with another man, even though we're engaged. But no,
But the
that
thing
I would
is,
say
like,
that because that
Will's-
we can recontextualize what she did there is like she
Yeah.
wasn't actually like turned on or whatever. But if you
Yeah.
go back and see this compass thing, I'm like, okay, so but all the other stuff where they're being really like romantic, all up in each other's faces, is like, okay, is that actually like she wasn't scheming
No.
that hard? So it's like, is there actually something there? And then that bothers me because I just don't like it.
like you want to know what it tastes like?
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yeah, that part is weird. I will agree with you there. That part is weird. Because I don't really know like what's the motivation there.
I don't
Just
think
to be
there's.
a
I don't
dick
think
to
there's.
Jack Sparrow?
I don't think there's
Like-
motivation there. I don't know.
This is what I mean. That this movie feels like they were writing it while they were filming it, and this is the
Yeah,
case. They were
yeah,
like,
first
"Hey,
they're-
that's
yeah.
right. That's right. A love triangle for Jack and Elizabeth. That'd be kind of romantically involved. That'd be kind of weird, right?" And they'd be like, "Well, actually, she was.
Actually
it was
not,
just a thing
yeah.
the whole time." Because her main thing is that she actually wants to be like a pirate, like Jack. That's not that she wants Jack as a person.
That's clearly a
But then
reaction of.
That it's almost like
yeah.
but then it's like they kind of like, yeah, it doesn't really work
And we've
all that
seen
well.
this in other things where it's like really well written things can be like,
Yeah.
okay, we can take this twist at the end and actually apply it back to every scene before it, and it makes sense. In this one,
Yeah,
you can't.
You can't exactly. I mean, like I said, I think it's recontextualized better in the conclusion film. Still not like it's still
Oh, what
not
the
neat and
fuck?
tidy though.
Well, what the fuck if I just watched this movie and
Well,
I
well, no,
think
no.
she's
Well,
turned
here's the
on.
thing. Hold. Well, yeah, okay. You would. That's what they want you to think.
then
That's
I'm
what,
like,
that's what
all
they want
right,
you to
I'll
think.
stop
they want you to get all
watching
turned
now.
on about it. Yeah, no, they because like everything in because they've set up like so many things now, and then they have so many things now that they gotta conclude, which is why the next movie is almost 3 hours long. So yeah.
Lord. But then there's the whole thing where all the men in her life are fighting on the crazy set pieces and and
Okay,
then,
so
and she's
I will
scrambling.
say, I love the scene where they're first fighting. I was losing it because to me, so it was great because, well, first it's her like, screaming at all of them, but I love the fact that we don't really focus in on what they're doing. We're more focused on Elizabeth, like getting all upset at them while Pintel and Rangetti are doing
Yeah,
piratey things.
of course.
But she's trying to like distract them or whatever. But we just see them this really wide shot of them just like circling each other, this like all whacking swords. There's something extremely funny about every time they cut to that to me because it literally looked like they were just kind of like like they weren't
Yeah.
actually fighting. It's just like just kind of like whacking swords. There's just something inherently very funny about the wide shot of them just like doing
And
that.
there's something a little unserious about fighting like that on top of a moving wheel as well. It's like somehow I don't take this entirely seriously. Because who
Yeah,
in their
that's
right
true.
mind would say let's just fight here and not just get down on the ground and at least just fight like normal people? Even when
Yeah.
they're running on buildings and stuff, it's like, oh, let's just arbitrarily stop here and start cling, cling, cling. Let me move a couple steps over here and get onto like this narrow wooden beam and start. And then it's like, oh, we're on a wheel, but
Yeah.
let's just keep clinging swords because this obviously is our priority
Yes.
here. It's like, just get down. Just get down, boys. Get down, you two.
just stop it. Yeah,
So it's silly, but it's supposed
is
to be
very
silly,
silly.
you know.
it is. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's kind of like it's kind of a terrible thing to just wave away because it's just whatever, it's fun. But like ultimately, that is kind of why the movie still works, even though it does have a lot more flaws. I would say, kind of inherently that I think
Yeah.
we've pretty well be pretty well fleshed out. Um, but
So
yeah.
back to the Flying Dutchman, this miserable ass ship.
Hmm. Hmm.
With by the way, the whole I found it interesting that lashings were like a punishment when like
Yeah.
they're constantly whipping these people to move the damn get that ship
I
going.
don't. Yeah, I don't. I thought about that too, and I was like, why aren't they doing that? Like, they're just.
They're
Why are we doing
doing,
that to them, huh?
but it's like
They're already doing
it's
it. You
like
don't need to.
it's like the stereotypical like you know whipping like you're
Yeah.
like in a lot of movies like the end of the world like
So,
tyrant.
so the cat of nine. I will say so the cat of nine tails was very different than normal. Than just like a normal like whip though, because the cat of
Oh
nine
yeah,
tails usually
well,
had like a bunch of stuff like in it. Well, it's also nine. Like it flies out to like nine like ends, and often it not always, but sometimes they would even put like bits of stuff in it, like glass or pieces of like bone or things like that to really like. Those are like it was a pretty harsh punishment to do that to somebody. And, Will's pretty slashed up by it. I also love the
yeah.
scene where it's just like he's just drenched in water and they're just like. There's like Orlando Bloom's just beautiful back. There he is. It's just like there we go. The rippling muscles of Orlando Bloom.
What do we think of the
So,
dice game?
Pirates Dice is great. I mean, it is a fun game. I don't know if you've ever played it before,
I'm not.
but okay, it's fun. I mean, they explain it in the movie pretty well. It's pretty simple. You're just trying to outguess the amount of numbers. So you're not just taking your own into account. You're trying to guess
Yeah, all of them.
how many of each number. Yeah. So yeah,
It's like
it's
it's
a
like
fun
okay,
game.
I get it, and it's dramatic and everything, but it also felt like they kind of threw that in last second too, because it was like we didn't even fully see what was going on, what they're doing over there, and Will's just like that. I'm gonna do that, and it's just like immediately. All right, I'm gonna challenge him, and then he's like, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, so it almost feels like there was like a little bit longer scene that they filmed with it, like to.
It felt
Yeah, it
weirdly
did
cut
felt
in the
like it was.
beginning. I thought they missed something
Yeah,
because it was like I don't even know what they were
yeah.
doing. I was like, I didn't know what they were doing, and he's suddenly like, I want to do that. Okay.
Yeah, it does feel like there was a scene that maybe got like a part of a scene that got cut or trimmed in editing or something maybe during
But
that. Yeah,
what a
I agree.
miserable ass ship though. It's like even this is like the most entertaining thing they got going on, but you have to wager like years of servitude just to
Yeah.
participate.
Yep.
It's like
That's
wow,
pretty
this is
miserable. Huh?
great.
This is amazing.
Why would you ever play that game? It's like 10 more years of service. Okay.
Okay. Well, hey, that guy you took 10 years from him, so it's like that guy got off pretty well.
Oh, I just wrote the Kraken Hawktua.
Spit on that thing.
He spat
He
on
did. Well,
spat on Jack Sparrow.
He ate Jack's hat, but at least he gave it back to him before the end. That was okay. The mini arc of Jack looking for different hats throughout the movie. I thought that was fun. Also, it's,
Yeah,
I
like Bandana Jack though. No, he's
Bandana
down
Jack's
Bandana Jack.
pretty classic, pretty classy Jack there. Yeah.
Yeah. What else? What else from this movie? So we had Bootstrap Bill. You know, he comes in,
Yeah. So
looking soggy as all hell.
Stellan Skarsgård. This is the first movie I ever saw him in, and now he's become sort of a staple in like a lot of movies that I've really enjoyed. He got involved in the MCU. I think he's the best part of Andor, which is the Star Wars show. I highly recommend. He's just a phenomenal actor, honestly, and he's great here. I mean, coming back to him, it's just like, wow. Now I know why he's always like stood out, because he's just like he's not super like he's not like overly complicated as a idea or character, but he's just like brings everything that he needs to that role. Like he just commits. He's a weird sea possessed man, right? You see him the first time where he's bringing the black spot to Jack, and he's just like spitting up water, and it's like ugh. It's like, who is this weirdo?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, those details are really nice. It's like,
Yeah,
ooh, gross. Some gross people. Like, there's a lot of gross
yeah.
people on this ship, but he's somehow like the
Hmm.
grossest because he's like human enough to like,
He's still like mostly human. Yeah,
like
he's
other
just
ones
like
like
barnacles growing
other
on
ones
him,
just like
and
made of tree bark. It's like okay, but this guy he's like soggy as hell. You could tell how
he's part of
squishy
the
he
ship.
is.
He's
It's,
part of the ship.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
That'll come into play in the next movie. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
they team up. Bill and Will team up, father and son,
Yeah.
and pretty easily get that key. Quick work.
Yeah,
You would think
that's pretty good.
you
Yeah,
would
good
think he would
job.
have that key a little more protected than that. It was like the stereotypical, let me get the thing off of the sleeping person gently. But okay,
We honestly we haven't even really talked about Bill Nighy's performance as Davy Jones. I mean, I think he steals the show. I think he steals the show.
yeah, he
Far
does.
and away. I think he's like the best part of the movie. Um, just bewitching performance every time. Like he just because his accent is so striking, and he also does this interesting thing with that
Yeah.
a lot of times. Because he already has an interesting accent already. I think it's Welsh, and he just kind of like overemphasizes and exaggerates it. It's like he's almost trying to do like I don't know, like a faux. Well, Jones. I guess it makes sense that they picked a Norwegian. No relation to me, and no relation to the and no relation to the monkeys. Because one of the monkeys' lead singer, Davy Jones.
Hmm.
So, um,
Those are the only
yeah,
Jones in
no,
the
I think
world.
there's the only Joneses in the whole world, and
Mhm.
honestly, he kills it. I mean,
Yeah.
he really just does a stellar job.
Yeah, it felt like a almost like an equivalent to a Voldemort esque performance for Harry Potter.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
iconic. You associate it with these movies. You think of a villain in these movie series. He's the iconic one you think of, and he looks really good.
yeah,
And he has a very distinct voice. And he emphasizes like his T's. He's like,
yeah,
Jack Sparrow.
yeah. I love that. Just does some weird stuff like that sometimes with his lips. It's like this is the era where they were really nailing down like how to make motion capture on people's faces look really good. Because Voldemort's the same thing,
Hmm.
right? With Ray Fiennes, they did the same thing with the Voldemort face. Just as a side note to that, I actually don't remember if we talked about this in our Goblet of Fire review, but I believe they tested doing like red contacts for his eyes, for Ray Fiennes' eyes, but they were just like, I don't know if it was his input or if it was just like a combination thing, the whole film crew and director and stuff. But like the intensity of his eyes are really what sells his performance as Voldemort. So I'm really glad they didn't do that because like Ray Fiennes just has striking blue eyes already. So it's like
Yeah.
them keeping that like so that intensity there, and I think there's a similarity to this too. There's like a very like deep seated sadness to everything beneath the like the octopus exterior. I guess you could say there is a really I'm just trying to think of like the right way to put it, but like he does like a really good job of emphasizing that there has to be more, there's more behind this. We get some like little hints at like it's like his love. Like that's kind of the thing that he's like latched onto, and it's like he's lashing out at the world basically because of he had a lost love. What was it?
Mm.
That which vexes all men. Well, the sea sums the dichotomy of good and evil. A woman. It's a woman. It's always a woman with
Yeah.
these pirate men. But yeah, there's just like a really. So can't really quite find the words for it, but Yeah, something about Woody, the work he does with that face, that mocap, is really sells it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a certain expressiveness to it with like the eyebrows and
Mm.
like yeah, he takes a very distinct character. It's a unique personality, and yeah,
Hmm.
definitely steals the show for sure. Um, let's see anything else from this movie? Sure, there is, but there's a lot. The Kraken,
There's a lot, yeah.
the Kraken, I felt was really pretty terrifying, especially early on. Just like
Yeah.
this, just devours ships, you know.
Hmm.
So very, very good. Like you immediately know it's for business. So it's like it gets hit like a little bit with like some. What did it get hit with? What did they shot it with like? Oh, he shot. Yeah, he shot these exploding barrels, and it blew up on
Mm.
it. And it was like, "F
Hmm.
this, I'm out for a little bit." Okay.
Yeah, it's just like,
It-
ow, that hurt.
it's like
Like,
I feel like the massive thing. It would feel like it wouldn't have that much of an effect on it. And just be like, all right. But yeah, pretty cool.
yeah, it was cool. I think. Oh yeah, I before we move on to probably our final reviews. Uh, I think my favorite shot in the whole movie is when Will's escaping, and because I think he gets off the Dutchman and then he goes aboard that ship that Elizabeth was on, and then he has to escape again because the Kraken destroys
Hmm.
the ship. And there's this shot of him like underwater where you see the mass of the Kraken that's destroying everything. And then it's like he comes up above water and it's like mostly on him, but it's like just a little bit in the background. You can see the Kraken just destroying the ship, like
Hmm.
absolutely leveling it. And it's just like, but it's mainly, again, it's like the camera's, it's sort of like, it's sort of a Dutch angle. And it's like mainly like focused on him, but it's such a cool shot where it's like you only see part of what the Kraken's doing. And that kind of makes it, even though you saw the whole thing, that still makes it really terrifying that it's like how much destruction this thing, how easily it can just tear through a ship.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Um, all right. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on in this movie. I'd
Yeah.
say it's definitely a lot of fun, but it's just hard when they throw so many things at the wall. You can't give it too much credit because obviously some of the stuff's gonna stick if you throw so many damn things at the wall.
Yeah, it's true. When you're throwing it all out, something's gonna land, and that is what the movie feels like.
But there's like so many
For
different
sure.
like antagonists. You know, even our
Yeah.
main characters are antagonists at different times to each other, and plus the main antagonists like Davy Jones, the Kraken, Cutler Beckett. You know,
Yeah.
so there's a lot. There's a lot. But all
Yeah.
right, let's
There's a
do our
lot.
final score. All right, 3, 2, 1. 7.5.
Yep, I feel like that's pretty fair. I think the movie does a lot. It's fun. It does a lot of things right. Definitely a much more flawed movie than the first one.
Right.
But it's still good. Like I still had a great time watching it. I think it's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's not a bad movie by any means. It's messy. I think is probably the best.
Yeah.
Which honestly makes it almost more interesting to talk about. The fact that it's a messy
Almost they
film.
they intentionally made it messy.
No,
On
they did
purpose.
not. No, they that's not true.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun. It's probably it sounds like most of the review is like a lot of criticism from me, but there's just a lot to criticize, but there's a lot to love as well. You know, I think
Yeah.
Baby Jones alone, I have a hard time giving it too low a score just from that performance. Like really elevates the movie a lot, and
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
it's fun.
That does. I think Johnny Depp's still killing it. He's still very funny throughout
Yeah.
the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, all the performances I think are still really good. Stellan Skarsgård. coming in as a new character.
Elizabeth, I take or leave some of the
Yeah,
stuff. It's hit or miss. I really don't like
yeah,
how
I would say in this,
a lot of her
yeah,
position in this movie is in service of like her relationship with these men, which I felt was kind of cheap. It was just like, how this one,
I don't,
everybody has the hots for her. Everybody's fighting over her, and she's like,
I don't know if I, but the thing is like the whole thing is her not. I would say I agree with you in the sense that like I agree with you in the sense that like I don't find her she's the least interesting part of the movie to me, even though it's like a lot of the movie is really banking on her like turn, because it's like her turn that's like the biggest thing. I think to me my problem is it just yeah, there's too much. You're juggling too much at one time, and it's like you don't, when you're not giving Elizabeth as much, when you're giving her as like equal footing time as like, I don't know, the turn to work. I feel like it needed to have more build up, and there just wasn't. It almost like there wasn't enough. It almost kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Other than like in the last, it's like the halfway through this baby act 2, I would say, is like when she's finally getting involved with everything. Yeah,
that's why
I don't
just
know.
like that part with the compass, it felt like I was being lied to in the end, where it's almost like, no, you're supposed to kind of disregard all that. And it's like, no, I don't really buy that, because it seems like she's genuinely like flustered by it. But yeah, and then she has the whole scheme. And it's like, okay, it's a good scheme, I guess. But of course, she has to make out with Jack Sparrow to make it happen. It's the only way. It's the woman's superpower. So
It's the ensorceling kiss. Didn't you know? It's a trope of the
yeah, I know.
90s.
Yeah.
The ensorceling kiss.
But that's the Tarqaron score, 7.5. It was interesting. I didn't really know the reception of these movies. I looked online because I was curious, and it's like I didn't know that all these movies, except for the first one, critically are panned. I didn't know that.
Yeah, critically they are. I remember when this came out. Fan reception was mixed. I remember particularly with this one. Next one, I would say people were a lot more forgiving, I guess, maybe of that, because they saw like everything that was built up in this come to fruition, basically. Yeah, I'd say the reception overall, from my memory anyway, in the 2000s, was that this was a lot more mixed. I had friends that loved it. I had friends that hated it. And then when At World's End came out, pretty much people who even hated Dead Man's Chest were like, I enjoyed At World's End. And then the people who really liked Dead Man's Chest loved At World's End. So
really? Okay.
it was like,
I'll have to see, I guess, because I always had this general perception that like with each passing movie, it kind of went down in how people viewed it.
That's what I remember. That's actually kind of how I felt. I was sort of in the middle, because like I liked Dead Man's Chest quite a lot when it came out, but I recognize that it's a pretty messy movie overall. And I think At World's End is also fairly messy, but the ultimate conclusions and the music and everything, the music's probably the best in the whole series, is in the next movie. So that love theme it really elevates the movie a lot. So
we'll see what we think of it. Rotten Tomatoes had every one except for Curse of the Black Pearl was rotten.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I was
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, this is probably this and At World's End are probably both in like the 40s or 30s or something, right?
I don't remember exactly. I know, one was like 50. Yeah. This one might be like 53 or something.
Oh, okay.
Next one's like 40s, 30s. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Well, there is a part early on in the next one that is, it's really dumb. I'll just say that. It's just.
Let's go.
Yeah. Let's go. All right, we'll tune in. We'll have to tune in next week. We'll be watching that movie and reviewing that. So.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the scheduling.
Posted with us.
Because I'm taking a week break at one point, so it might be 2 weeks from now,
right.
or it might have already been 2 weeks before this. I don't know. So
Well, stay tuned regardless.
stay
We'll
tuned. Only
be
there's like about a month or so left of the series, and it'll be interesting to see how it all goes. All right. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. What videos should our viewers watch next?
Go check out the most recent episode of the Tarqaron podcast. It's episode
16.
16.
Where
Wow.
we're talking
I almost
about
said
our
13 when I
5
was
years of
like,
Tarqaron experience in person.
yeah, go check it out.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right. And then like the video if you enjoyed. Leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts. And hit the notification bell. And until next time.
Yeah.